Why you turn so quick? Go ahead, talk about it. I'm ready. Talk about it.
With that power, right? That is, let's say, with that superpower, just got all that stuff in your head.
I did preach about being a superwoman.
We do.
You do.
I think that one of the things that is so important, especially when, right? And I would say, and I know I'm still kind of in that moment, that is when there has been, quote, like an uncharacteristic moments or points that, like, there could be moments of potential shame or regret that were a part of the union and the marriage coming together. That you mentioned something, Pastor Wante, about boundaries. That one of the things that, you know, I often tell couples is you have to have a do not discuss list.
Yeah.
Like there has to be a list of items where it's like, hey, there's things we do not discuss when we go out. There's things that we don't talk about. You know, it could be because y'all ain't figured it out yet.
Right.
There could be things that the way it's presented could bring shame on one of on the husband or the wife. But a lot of times I find that if those moments aren't discussed, they literally become triggers in public settings. They become triggers in public moments.
Yes.
And that, to try to overcome that, is very difficult. And what happens, people get in the car and they be like, well, I didn't know you was going to mention it. And they be like, well, that's our truth.
Right.
Well, it may be our truth, but
everybody don't need to know it.
But
everybody ain't
But you know, if the thing about it is, you really don't even need to say that if you really love and respect one another.
That's right.
Because if I know something's going to hurt him, if I know him, I'm not going to say it anyway, because I know it's going to hurt him, and I know what's going to happen after it hurts him. I know on the way home it's not going to be good. I know when I get home it's not going to be good. So why would I do that?
Right.
Yeah.
That's
It's,
good.
it's because we don't have that respect for one another.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And some people do. They try to cry out for help.
They do.
Right.
And I've been in moments, we've been in moments where it's like, even as the other couple at the table, and someone throws something out, and I was like, they crying out for help.
Yes.
And now is not the moment.
Right. It's
you know,
not.
This is not the moment. This is not where this happens.
Nope.
This is not where this takes place.
Nope.
Right.
You know, a lot of times it happens for the husband, right? Because normally it's the wife that's crying out saying we need to talk to somebody. And then the husbands don't want to talk to nobody.
Right.
And then you get into this moment, and the next thing you know, she done threw it all out on the dinner table. And it's like, well, you don't ever want to talk to nobody. So I used the opportunity I had to be able to move forward, to discuss something, to talk about something. And I believe that it's so important for, in those seasons, in those moments, for those things to be made known.
Right.
That even if y'all aren't able to talk about it, then y'all need to know that what y'all ain't able to talk about. And discuss, like, hey, listen, this right here, and I'm saying this because the thought is to death to us part.
Right.
How do we not end in a divorce? How do we make our marriage, quote, divorce proof? Is you understand what are hot topics. You understand what could be shameful moments, and you're willing to allow in time for those things to be healed.
Well, you know, when we talk about boundaries too, even in arguments, you know, because a lot of people get into a marital relationship and feel like that, you know, that's never going to happen. And when it start happening, they don't know how to deal with it because they never addressed it prior.
Yeah.
So there should be boundaries even in that, especially if you have children in the household.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially if you have children in the household. And so one of the things that we decided to do is we would never argue in front of the kids.
Yeah.
That whatever, and see, one thing that he's always said is that he wants his house to always be his home.
Wow.
And if you're always arguing in it, he don't want to come home because it's not a home anymore.
Place of peace.
Right, a place of peace.
Yeah.
So what we started doing is saying, hey, let's get away from that. And he said, always go to a place that's not your home to have those lengthy or those detailed discussions
so
like
good.
that.
That's good.
Because you don't want your house to be a symbol of that.
And whether you realize it or not, parts of your house is territorial. That means that you don't put your mark in it. You feel more comfortable in certain places. It's just like if somebody come to your house, they can't tell you what you're doing wrong at your house. It's your house. You know.
Yeah.
That's why they go to neutral ground when they have a summit, because you can't go to somebody's place and tell them what they doing wrong.
Y'all are
like
saying
that.
some really,
That's
y'all saying
awesome.
some really good things, and
That's
I
good.
think we should, you know, I don't want people to ever miss moments that being said. That what you guys just said is huge. That a house needs to be a home.
I like that.
A place
And
of peace.
a place of peace, which means that if there are things that need to be discussed, things that could potentially be and are hot topics or triggering topics, try your best not to talk about them at your house.
No, and it's important for a man more so than a woman, because a man, first of all, what he's encountered in the world is different than what we encounter in the world. It's harder and not like it would be for a woman. Men go through a lot more in the world aspect of it than we do. So when he comes home, he don't want to have to deal with the world in his home.
Ooh, that's so good.
Yeah, that's
That's
really
so good.
He don't want to have to fight in his home like he's fighting out in the world.
Yes.
Just for some respect.
Yes. One of the things that that I often suggest to like couples who are having heated discussions, they even potentially could be yelling at each other, is I tell them, listen, talk and walk. Talk and walk. It may sound crazy,
No, I
but
got that.
the pace of your steps actually set the pace of your tones.
Right.
And you'll find yourself, it's hard to yell and it's hard to be quick when your feet are setting a pace.
And it also release some of the energy that your verbal would want to try to bring forth.
Yes.
By
Right.
walking,
Right.
then you releasing energy so that now you don't have to talk with that energy.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
And these are little, I'm going to call them hacks right
I
now.
like that.
But
Talk
they're-
and walk.
You got to talk and walk, right? And I love it too, because it's matched with, you got to do that outside of your
Right.
House.
your
Right.
house.
Right.
Like
Right.
and I would say like that's one thing about Rashida that she always laughs about, because I'm very like you can use the word territorial in that sense, but I love to think about certain things at certain times in certain places in very very specific orders. Like I am that. And that's why I was like, I don't think people understand. Like, you know, I see myself. I'm so glad this lady loved me. You know, because when you find out, wait a minute,
Right.
that's what's going through his head. Like, he won't even. If it's after
Right.
8 o'clock, I will not discuss this. If we here,
Right.
I'm not gonna talk about that.
Right.
Well, and it's not as rigid as it
I know, I'm
sounds
making it
like.
sound super rigid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
But-
you're not that way. But even when it comes to like ministry, once we get home, because we work at the church, that's the last thing we're gonna discuss when we walk through the door. If it's not burning down,
Right.
if the building
right,
ain't burning
right,
down, we all
right.
right.
Fix it tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
Right.
we'll fix it tomorrow. And that's just how we've done things
Right.
in general. I think
Right.
we'll talk about, it'll always be about our daughter, the child, and what's going on in the household. That's everyday free range. But you're right, putting things in boundaries or in areas that you just don't talk about.
And the other
Until
thing
another
too
day.
is when you do have those moments, there's something called quick recovery time.
Yep. Yep.
Don't let it linger on. Don't let it be 48 hours and you still feeling that same way. Once we discuss it, let it be quick recovery time.
Yeah.
That means, okay, I'm done with it.
Yeah.
We're done
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah, but I have a thing. I'm
Yeah.
not going to bed mad. I'm not doing it. I'm not gonna go to sleep
Right.
upset.
Right.
I need peace.
Exactly.
Even if I have to tap you, hey,
That-
we'll talk
exactly.
about this tomorrow. I love you, but I'm not going to bed
Right.
mad. I don't.
Absolutely.
I love that. But I would say that is something that, like I said, I don't want people to miss it, that a lot of times it's not that you can't talk about certain things.
Yeah.
Where you're deciding, when you're deciding, a lot of those, and I say it's because a lot of husbands, they haven't understood that even about themselves yet.
Yeah.
And a lot of men struggle to communicate well.
They do.
Yeah.
And all of this has to be like understood, that they're having to express and explain feelings that they don't even like have the words to express
They
at
don't.
times. And it
Yeah.
takes maturity. It takes time to be able to even understand how to convey yourself.
It takes
Which
time.
is crazy because for women, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
One thing about a woman is if you don't give us the complete story, we will create a story. In other words, if I'm asking you about something that happened and you leave some details out, then I know that's not the complete story. So then I'll start filling in the places that you left vacant. And so when I finish, it may not be what really happened at all, but in my head, that's what really happened.
Y'all deal with specificness, and we are abstract. We deal with the big picture, and y'all deal with the details. So.
Well, see, I saw something one time that said the way a woman think and the way a man think. And the woman, they had boxes, and the boxes were separated. But the man, the boxes was all together. And the reason for that is that when we come to you, when you come to us and say, well, what are we having for dinner? And I said, well, you know, I went to Kroger's, and I was going to get something. And do you know I ran into Jerry? And Jerry was telling us about his son. You would not believe what his son did. And so I done went all the way around the Murray
That's
Bush.
what
And when I
Bryan
come
said.
back,
He
you
said,
say,
Rashida,
now
y'all
what are we having for dinner? That's because I put all the
Yep.
pieces together, and I'm going to tell you about the whole story.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yep.
you can't handle the whole story. Y'all think in the one box, what we going to
You
eat?
do that to me too. You be like, babe, you talk about 5 different things at one time. I'm like, I can't help it.
I just be just trying to bring it back home. So what
I'll
you
talk
wanna-
about 5 different things, and then I'll come back to the end, and
Right.
he'll be like, you just said a whole bunch of stuff. I'm
Yes.
like, man.
Right,
Listen,
we done
and
told you a whole story, and you can't handle but that one thing, and that's what
Listen,
we going
my
to eat.
thing just really be like, I'm here to listen, but I ain't got a response for every page. You know, like
Sometimes I don't need a
I
response.
can put a response at the end of all the pages. I would like to respond at the end.
Right,
You know,
right.
I don't know if I got a response for every turn
Right.
in the story.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
No.
But with Bryan, when you talked about just a few minutes ago, when you said that a lot of women don't realize the men are having trouble communicating that, I want to also say some women, most women, I would say that I've come in contact with, they're not even being patient with the man to allowing your spouse to get it out. They're so like at him, and I've experienced that if I just slow down,
Right.
he's talking to you. Your spouse is talking to you. Slow down and hear what he's saying and help. But they just in that nagging mode. So I wanted to address that. Like, I think not just the men, but the women have some responsibility and some changes that need to be made too
Right.
in the marriage for it to work. It's not always the men having to change and adjust, but the women need to do it too.
Yeah.
And learn those nonverbal responses from your spouse.
Right.
Sometimes it's not all about what you say; it's
Right.
about how you're acting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes I know when he's hurt, I can feel it.
Yeah.
I mean, and it hurts deep because I can see it on his face. I can see it in his demeanor that
Yep.
he's really hurt or he's
Yeah.
really angry.
Right.
And if I know that, then as a woman, I have to back off and don't let this mouth get me in trouble.
That part. Yeah. Yeah. Because you love that person.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're adjusting how you would normally do things because you are
Right.
concerned about that person's well-being. I love that.
And you
But
just,
that comes with maturity,
It
though.
does.
and that, but you just said something that I think is, you know, I always think about like just that mindset that's then now channeling or dictating the preceding thoughts. You just said because you love this person.
Right. Right.
That right there is a mindset that then sets the tone for how you continue on from that place.
Right.
And I think a lot of times we allow, and I've seen people allow question marks to get into the wrong spaces.
Well, think about it, Pastor Bryan. We love our children despite what they do.
Right.
So my love for my child doesn't change. My love for my spouse shouldn't change because they made a mistake or they did something
But
wrong.
I think that's what I'm saying, though, right?
Yeah.
That, like, what people allow is a question mark about whether or not they love them. And when you have a question mark next to that piece, then of course everything you say and do is now in line with there being a question mark about love.
Right.
based
What
on
I'm-
an action.
What I'm saying
or
is
something.
you said no,
Exactly.
because
Exact-
I
that right
love
there.
him,
Yeah.
I do this.
Right.
Right,
Instead
that
of saying
is,
it the other
but
way.
I mean, you're like, man, I just wondering if he loved me. Well, that right there, like from that question mark, it will explain your next behaviors,
It does.
words, because now you're investigating, searching to see if he loved you, versus trying to figure out what happened here. You're trying to answer the question of, does he love you?
Well, you know, the world will make you say, if he loved you, he would
do
not
this.
do
Oh,
this.
he'd not do this.
That's not true, though.
That's not true.
Yeah.
Because we still make mistakes. We're human.
Yeah.
So that right there is a whole nother topic. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
hearing you.
I
I'm
know
just
I'm hearing you.
look, we make decisions.
Yeah, we make decisions. But
Yes.
think about it. We don't do that to our
Right.
children, though. Our children could be doing all types of stuff. And the first thing we say is, we love you. We may not agree with what you did,
Right.
but our love will never change. Why don't we
But
do
that
that
don't
in the
transcend
marriage?
to the spouse.
Yeah, why
Yeah.
don't we do that?
I'm gonna tell you why people don't do that. You wanna know why people don't do that? Because they don't want to.
Yeah, it's a choice
It's
a
because I've
decision.
done that in the 15 years. I changed the way I started thinking about something that we might be going through, or you did, or I did. I always say, we said it in the other thing with the Joneses, that the love for you, your actions doesn't change based on what you did.
you
Your
have-
character hasn't.
Yeah, right. That the value of a long-term relationship is I don't have to use your latest thing to determine the history or character I have.
Right.
Like you have a whole history.
Right,
that
you
I
know
can
that
look-
person.
that I can look at, and a lot of times we're wanting to use the latest thing to
Yeah.
determine what 15 years should have already settled.
Exactly.
Right, right.
Like-
I know your
Exactly.
character. I know the man you are.
Exactly.
So when you do something or you made a mistake on something, I'm not saying, oh, man, it's over. No, I know who you are as a man. Now, that moment, I don't know that moment, and we'll work on it, but that doesn't
Erase all the other.
erase everything
Right,
that we've
right.
been through.
It
And
does-
unfortunately, we see our kids different than our spouses anyway.
That's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't.
I've been praying
Yeah.
about that. I wanted to have the same love and affection
Right.
toward my child that I have for my, and I don't know, maybe God just been dealing with me in this season, especially intentionally in the last year or two, that I told Pastor Bryan that as much as I serve and take care of our daughter, God got on me about serving and taking care of him. So I've been intentionally doing little things, serving him his dinner, making sure he's okay. And I didn't realize that, dog, I
So
was
do you
doing
serve
that
your,
more.
your husband before you serve your child?
I do now.
Awesome.
It took me 15 years to do that, but
Awesome.
now, and I was like, oh man, he's so traditional. Blah, 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 blah. Then the Holy Spirit got on me.
But love does that though.
Yeah, yeah.
You always want the best for
Yeah.
him.
It's so funny. Now our daughter wants to help me. Let me get daddy something to
See,
drink. So I'm making plates, and what she's
Boy,
doing,
this-
getting him something to drink.
Listen,
Daddy, I got it. Because I taught her.
it's
I said,
heaven on
Amber,
earth.
I told Amber, I said, Amber, you got to take care of your dad. You got to
Right.
go check on him.
Right.
But that's a stickler point that I used to do when I was doing premarital training, counseling, that a lot of them didn't want to hear. They didn't want to hear that.
Yeah.
About putting the husband or the wife, the spouse before the kid.
Yeah,
They-
that
they-
was rough for me
Because
too. But
there's a example you use if you
Yeah.
were out.
In a
Okay.
boat, and the boat turned over, but you can only save one person. Which one would it be, your spouse or your child? Most of
Wow.
my child. Well, the fruit is not greater than the seed.
wow, that's
Yes.
hard.
Yes.
Oh, that's tough.
Yes.
Yeah. And but guess what? If that bird tone, if y'all loved each other, they will understand you went. You went to go do what you needed to do. But you always, I will have that conversation. You save Am, okay? You save Amber.
listen,
I'll be all right. We've
Listen,
had our life.
Amber is amazing. She actually the other day, well, it may have been this week, that she said, because we're often said Amber, like just telling her, we'll see the results of this later. But we often tell like, man, you the greatest thing that happened to us. And then the other day, and she was like, greater than y'all getting married together. Like
We didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to do. We
But
was
that's
like,
the thing. The stability of your family is not based on your relationship with your child. It's based on the relationship you have with one another.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. That's
That's
good.
that's the
Wow.
stability of
Yeah,
the family.
she threw us
Right.
off on that when we looked at each
Well,
other.
and we
We
told
was
her,
like,
we told her, she was like,
She
you can't,
knew.
She knew.
We said, you can't compare them two.
When y'all are happy,
Then
she's
she's
happy.
gonna be
Trying
happy.
to tell you.
Oh yeah.
You can't compare them two, girl. That's a different category. That's another.
Yeah, that's
this
what he
is-
said. He said,
life
baby,
is-
it's too different. She
life
was
is
looking at
like-
us like, no, it's not.
Life is like a skyscraper.
Yeah.
You know, there's different floors.
Right.
This is a different floor. You went to a different floor. We
Nah,
discussing
she just see what she
we
said.
discussing the kid floor.
You up there in the penthouse?
You up there in the penthouse, and you need to come down to the kid floor. You know, come down
Yeah.
to the kid floor.
Yeah, I remember when Lindsay had a slumber party at the house because we wouldn't let her go nowhere else. Everybody had to come to our house. And they were going around, why they were sharing at 12 years old, I don't know, but they were saying about parents arguing in the home and all that. And they were mimicking and doing things about their
wow.
parents. And so when it got to Lindsay, she was like, they was like, so what did your parents be doing? And she was like, my parents don't argue. Everybody's parents argue. That's not true. You just don't want to tell us. She said, I've never seen them argue.
Yeah.
Wow.
Why? Not that we didn't, and we don't call it arguing anyway. We call it a strong conversation.
Right. I like
I
that.
told everybody about the
I like
words.
that
I told everybody
strong
the words.
conversation.
You
We don't
find-
argue. We
I
just have
love it.
strong
We're gonna use that one.
conversations.
We're gonna use
You
that
gotta find the words that work for your marriage.
Exactly.
You gotta
I
find
love
your,
So it's
make
like,
your own
no.
little
But that's
dictionary.
because we would never do it in front of her. And if it meant us going outside and
That's it.
standing at the mailbox saying
Yeah.
what we have to say,
Yeah.
and when we come back in the house, it's all
Yeah.
peaceful.
Listen, for kids at any age, no, because even when we started, when our daughter was little, like 3-4 years old, we would be having strong conversations, and she would say, "Guys, stop!"
Right.
Yeah. And ever since she did that
Right.
at 2 or 3, we don't do that in
No,
front of
you
her.
can't. Not in
I'm
front
like,
of them.
I'm like, baby, we're not arguing, we're just talking, but it's the tone.
Yes.
And it bothered her.
Exactly. And
So-
it will. And so to this day, you know, she's never seen us
Wow.
do anything like that.
That's awesome. I love
And
that.
she's 32 years
and
old.
she's 32
Uh-oh,
years
32 or 32. Oh, that's the
32 and 32.
That's the
Let's
product.
talk about the numbers, the math.
Okay, so let us help you out. We got married in February. She was born in May. There's your
Whoa,
There you
whoa,
go.
say like
There you go.
February,
March,
May, no, them
April,
too
May.
close.
There you go.
Them too close. Y'all could at least got married around October just to throw people off a little bit. Like, you know, the ceremony. That's what I
There
tell
you
people.
go.
Like, you can get married, have the ceremony later. So at least in time, the license look different. You know,
Listen.
It was what it was.
Yeah.
But
That
it
so
is
awesome.
what it is.
And
But
it's
it's
a
awesome
blessing.
to see
Yeah.
that, like, and I do 32 years.
I love the Ezells. They're so much
Listen.
fun.
32 years
Oh, we
later.
love y'all too.
We do.
Listen,
We
and
do.
I'm gonna go ahead. Y'all done gave us enough. You know, I had some stuff, but I feel like y'all done gave us
Aw.
enough. You know,
That means
'cause
we're just gonna have to have them back
We're
one.
gonna have to have them
another
back.
month.
I'm curious to know what you had.
what I had, you know, I saw a moment, you know, and you know, we was all out at brunch, and you said something, and I said, you know,
Ooh.
there's something in there that could, you know.
What did he say?
He said, you know, well,
What'd he say?
Pastor Wante said,
Uh-huh.
she said, I'm about to go shopping.
Yep.
And he said, well, who money you about to go spend?
Uh-huh.
And she said, well, I'm going with Deborah. He
Uh-huh.
said, well, you go spend her money, are you spending our money?
Uh-huh.
Right, there need to be a clarification.
Listen.
And I know as a husband, speaking for husbands,
Oh,
that a lot
man.
of times we just want clarity.
Clarity.
Just
I don't even know. I don't
clarity.
even know why he even mentioned that. I mean, I don't even know why he. I don't even know
It
why,
was
how that came
okay.
into his. Wait, I don't know how that came into his head.
Uh-huh.
Because he ain't controlling no money, no way.
That's a good one. Now that's a good one.
He seems like to act like he did.
It's different dynamics in marriage. Pastor
Right.
Wante handles the finances.
That's it. I
That's
give.
why she said
I
that.
give him an allowance,
And
and I don't
Ooh,
ask him what
allowance
he
is
do
a
with
hard
that
word for
allowance.
me. Ooh.
I don't ask him what you
He
do.
He all right with it. See, it don't matter to him.
I've been trained well.
He said, I've been trained with. I like this. This is
It's
good.
not that I can't handle money.
Of course
But
not.
why would I try to when she was a financial analyst for the post
She's good
office
at what she
or
does.
a bank branch
Ooh.
manager?
Yeah.
Or she helped churches all the time
Yes,
in
she
the
did.
finances and
Right.
and all the Why
You-
would I
you-
even waste my time?
right. And your frustration.
Add up.
Well, the thing about it is that it was conversation in the beginning.
Right.
Who's gonna do what?
Right.
We went on and established it.
Yeah.
But his thing was, I don't care about the money aspect of it. As long as I have my allowance, as long as when I come home and I turn that light on, the lights
That's
come on.
it.
As long as I have a roof over my head, the
That's
car notes
it.
being paid, the insurance being paid. If all that's been paid, why am I worried about the money?
I'm not.
That
That's
is
good.
so awesome.
But you know, that's a lot because of that generation. This generation ain't like that.
Right.
But I would say, but most people would expect it to be different. Because a lot of people automatically assume
No.
But-
that the man's supposed to, or the male's supposed to run the
That's
finances.
what,
Well, I
that's
told
what the
them,
word.
you know,
That's
I
what
told-
they
we
think,
have
but
all
it's not
girls.
true.
Yeah, we
So
have
I told
all-
all of them, no, you got to be responsible for the money.
That's right.
However, she don't carry cash. I carry.
Oh, let's
Look at that. He said, I carry the cash.
She don't carry cash.
Yeah.
You
no,
know?
But I
Yeah.
keep cash.
Yeah. So money, financial
I
was
cash
not a
and
problem
carry.
for y'all.
Right. No.
Y'all finances
No.
in marriage was not
Finance
a
has
problem.
never been an argument for us.
Wow.
Never.
She come to me and say, "You got 50 for."
He don't say, well, you got all the money. Why
I
you
don't
need
say
50
that.
from me? No,
Right.
he just give it to
I
me.
just give it to her.
Man,
And how much
Might need
of
to come
that
teach
do
us
you
men some of
accredit
that.
to just, I mean, I'm saying this because I want people to get and understand
Yeah.
that it is a very difficult moment for anything to be successful in marriage when you don't have a servant's heart.
right.
And I'm hearing you say this, but also I'm knowing that that level of humility, that level
Yeah.
of being okay is developed through serving.
It is.
Yeah.
That
That's good.
when you serve, it develops qualities
It does.
that are fruitful in your marriage.
Yes.
That when you get to different crossroads, you understand how to be. And I mean, I love the scripture where we talk about Jesus, and he says, "I came not to be served, but I came to serve." That he is the term they use now is that Jesus was the ultimate servant leader.
Yes.
We know Jesus is the Savior,
Yes.
but yet he had no problem. The Bible says humbling himself.
Yes.
And it's like, I think that's the piece that a lot of people understand of what the Bible says about of male leadership in a home. The problem is the Bible is also imagining that man kept on reading, and he was a humble servant.
Right.
That he would also die for this same church. That he was humble in his walk. That he wasn't a prideful
Right,
leader.
right.
He wasn't a stubborn leader.
Right.
That most women don't have the problem following a servant leader.
Right. Right.
You want to be the leader minus the servant piece.
Right.
Right.
That's good. I
Right.
like
And
that.
Right.
You have to be a servant leader.
Right.
Let the greatest among you be the servant of all.
Exactly.
Right. Well, here's the thing. He could have come down in the form of anything. He was God. But when Jesus came down, when he came down in the form of Jesus, he came down in the form of a servant. He said he came down in the form of a servant. So
Yes.
being who he is, he could have came down as anything.
Right.
But he came
Yes.
down in the form of a servant because he knew that was more significant than as
Yeah.
an example than anything.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think a lot of I be my mind always be thinking like, I want to crack the code, right? That when I hear a lot of women and I see a lot of wives that struggle with just male leadership, I just want to know, I was like, was the male that you had an experience with a prideful one? Because if you experienced a servant leader of a man, you've never seen anything greater. Then
Right.
when you have a humble leader, it is a beautiful experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what happens though? There's an example you give when men don't stay in their role, when they don't operate in their role as God created them to operate.
Unnatural use of a woman.
Yeah.
Oh, say that again.
The unnatural use of a woman. when you put a woman in a man's position, then a man don't have but a position, but then take the woman's position, and that's where all the perversion come into, because again, the woman's in an unnatural position,
Right.
and the man. So that's what happens.
And I say because it starts with this, right? You know, there's a difference. And I just want to break that even further, right? That like, well, Pastor Bryan, what are you saying? What's the difference between a leader and a servant leader? A leader thinks, how can I use our resources to move us forward?
Right.
A servant leader says, how can I use our resources to serve us better?
Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Like
Yes.
there's a drastic difference that
Yeah.
there are men who see the resources of their household and they use them all or view them all how they can move them forward.
Yes.
Versus saying, I see all of our resources and I see them through the lens of how can I serve y'all with them.
Yes.
You know,
good.
how
Putting
can
them in that position that maximize the potential that's in them.
Yeah.
exactly
Right.
Yeah.
and that's the difference.
Yes.
like that.
That you're not trying to funnel everything through your ambition. That you're not driving the family according to
That's good.
your goals and where you want to be.
That is so
but
good.
you humbly submit all that to where do y'all want to be? How can
Yeah.
I use my wisdom, my authority, my power to help y'all progress?
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the difference between a leader and a servant leader.
Right.
It is.
That it
Right.
sees its platforms, it sees its authority as the ability to raise everyone else up.
Versus just let me raise myself up.
That
Right. 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 Right.
I like
like
that.
it's
Yeah.
the difference in between. I don't want to even say it like that, but anyway, I was thinking of like some examples we see the difference between like a Joe Jackson,
Yeah.
you know, in a
Right.
Philip Banks, you
Right.
know. I'm gonna use the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? Everybody sees like,
Yeah.
man, you know, Philip Banks in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He moved Will in from the hood. What did he do? He was serving his family with his resources.
Yeah.
Right.
That nah, auntie, have him come over here from Philly. I know people like
Right.
y'all know the story. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right in West
Exactly.
Philadelphia, born and raised in
Exactly.
the playgrounds where he spent most of his days, chilling outside, relaxing on cool. I shoot some b-ball outside of school. Then a couple guys, it was up no good. Started making trouble in the neighborhood. I got one little fight. My mom got scared and said, "You moved to Auntie and Uncle in Bel Air." Why? Because he was a servant leader. There's a trouble in Philly. Let me
Right.
fly him out here
Right.
and use my resources to give him a better education,
Wow.
to give him the father he never had,
Right.
to make sure that he could be protected.
Right.
Like I'm not just sending money. Uncle Phil ain't just send money.
Right.
No.
Uncle Phil was like, I'm going to invite him in as he's mine,
Right.
and I'm gonna serve him with my resources. That's a servant leader
That's a servant.
And mentor him.
Yeah.
and mentor.
Yeah. There's a big
That
difference.
you know, if I've learned something, I want to first see the fruit of what I've learned
Yeah.
be dispensed in my household.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? That's where you got. Let me stop. I'm about to get on
Right.
a tangent.
Well, at the end of the day, men need to step up and women need to back off.
Well,
That and period. Mic drop.
I'm gonna let you break down your own point.
No, I got it. 'Cause it's everything we've been talking about. Men need to step up, but women need to back off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when they don't step up, well, here's the thing. That's why we, in the Bible, it labeled us as a helper.
Yeah.
We're not here to be it. We're here to help
That's
it.
right.
Wow.
But when we have to help it and be
Be
it,
that's an
then
unnatural use.
that's an unnatural use of a woman.
Oh.
She's more flexible, so she can be in with whichever direction. But we got to give them a direction.
Because you're more rigid.
Oh wow.
We're the stability. We are the foundation. We are in the midst of the storm. Let's not
The
move.
stabilizer.
Stabilizer.
Yeah.
The rudder on the ship.
That's
Yeah.
right.
The tail on the plane.
Right.
The peace in the midst of the storm.
The
Come on.
peace in the midst
Right.
of the storm.
Yeah.
Right. But when you're not, we can be all that.
All of it. That don't mean we want to, but we can.
We don't want to.
But we
We
can.
don't want to, but we can
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
are adaptable.
They are. They can. They can. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They can.
That's good. This is
And
good.
I'm a, you know, this could open up a whole nother can, so I'm gonna leave it alone for the next time.
Yeah.
Wow, but that's so good. And I
Enjoyed it.
I thank you guys for being here with
Enjoyed
us.
it. Really enjoyed it.
Thank y'all
Thank
for
you.
coming.
good.
Y'all
We didn't
are.
know what to expect, but we thankful that we did come. Thank you.
Listen, we put them in shirts. You know,
Yes, we good over
we
here.
good over
They're
here.
definitely good over there.
That's our confession.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
our
Amen.
stance that we are good over here. So
Amen.
we do. We thank you guys for watching.
Yes.
We
Yes.
thank you guys for tuning in. And as always, right? As always, till death do us part. It's time for you to start laughing at what you are mad at.
Yes.
And from the beautiful city of Tampa Bay, we're out.
We're out.
Thank you so much for watching Till Death Do Us Part podcast.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Y'all know what it is. It's separation season.
Yeah.
We can do the dash show, we can slow down. I think we found our rhythm now. Only death could part us, but thank God for now. All is fair in love and war, okay, I know that's true. Some may pray on us, but we just pray through. Baby, let's take the scene.